chapter, we will learn about the city of Vishala and sage Gauthama's curse. Early in the morning, the party of rishis, headed by Vishwamitra, who had the princess by his side, went towards Vishala, a beautiful city. They had crossed the Ganga with the help of a boat and had reached the other bank. Rama was still thinking of the glorious narration of the descent of Ganga. On northern banks of Ganga, they saw the city by name Vishala. As was natural to him, Rama wanted to know whose city it was and who was ruling it now. Vishwamitra said, "The history of this city goes as far back in time as the churning of the ocean of milk when Amrita was found. The Devas and the Asuras vied with each other to be the sole possessors of the bowl containing nectar. Narayana, with his guile, managed to let the Devas have it. Thus ensued a war, and several of the famed Asuras were killed in this war. And so Diti, the mother of the Daityas, was very unhappy. She asked her husband to help her to be the mother of a son who would be able to kill Indra. Kashyapa taught her the incantations, and there was one condition which she had to obey with great care. She had to be very pure and clean and should never make a single mistake regarding this rule. A lapse would mean that her desire would not be granted. Diti listened to all of it carefully. She observed all the rules well, and Indra was by her side all the time. He was attending to her wants and, by and large, making himself useful to her. He was her sister's son, and on that pretext, he was with her. She was extremely careful, but one day she was careless, and Indra, who was waiting for this chance, took advantage of it and managed to cut the little child inside her into pieces. Try as he might, he could not destroy the pieces, and they began to cry. He had cut the child into 7 pieces, and all 7 of them were crying. Diti was asleep, and he did not want her to wake up, and so he told the crying children, "Do not cry, Ma Ruda." Meanwhile, Diti was awake and found that calamity had overtaken her. Indra said, "Mother, you wanted me to be destroyed, and, as a matter of self-preservation, I had to resort to this. But your children are not dead. See, I could not kill them, so powerful is the effect of your vrata. My vajra was ineffective. There are now 7 children instead of 1. Forgive me and take your sons. I could not kill them." Diti knew that they were not going to kill Indra since her vrata had been tainted by her lapse. She said, "No one can conquer fate, and it is destined that no evil should befall you. Since you are responsible for these children, partly, you can take them with you. Though born of me, they will be your brothers. Since you went on saying Ma Ruda to them, they will be famed as the 7 Maruts. And let them be the associates of Vayu and be with him forever." "Rama," said Vishwamitra, "this is the spot where Diti performed her tapas, and this is where the 7 Maruts were born. Later, the city Vishala was built here by the Alambusa, one of the sons of Ikshvaku. His descendants have ruled this country since then. At the present moment, Vishala is being ruled by the king by name Sumati. We will spend the night here in this pleasant city and proceed to Mithila tomorrow." Hearing about the arrival of Vishwamitra and his disciples, Sumati, the king, came to where he was and paid his respects to him. He looked at the young princes and asked Vishwamitra who they were and how it was possible for these young men, evidently princes, to be accompanying the rishis. Vishwamitra told him about the yaga and how the young sons of Dasharatha had protected the yaga from getting polluted by the Rakshasa and how Rama had killed the entire host. Sumati was amazed at the thrilling narration and after talking to them for some time went back to his palace. The rishis spent the night there and early in the morning they resumed their walk towards the city Mithila. They reached the outskirts of Mithila and felt that they were already in Mithila. It was a beautiful city and they all exclaimed, "How beautiful! What a lovely city!" On the way, Rama discerned a very pleasant looking ashrama. It was isolated, situated in a garden which was almost touching the edge of the city. Rama looked with admiring eyes at the ashrama. He saw that there was no smoke pluming towards the sky and he realized that there was no one in the ashrama. This was very strange and with wondering eyes he turned to Vishwamitra and asked him, "Yonder there seems to be an ashrama. I think it is very beautiful, but it seems to me as though it is empty. This beautiful ashrama seems to be uninhabited. How is it possible, my lord? Why is it that there is no one in the ashrama situated as it is in such sylvan surroundings?" "It is empty because of a great man's anger," said Vishwamitra. He continued, "I will tell you how it became to pass. This same spot was once like the very heaven itself. It was the ashrama of the great Rishi Gauthama. He performed tapas here for many years. Brahma had created a beautiful woman and he called her Ahalya. To Gauthama was this Ahalya given in marriage and they lived here for a long time. Once Indra, who is famed for his weakness for beautiful women, came to the neighborhood of this ashrama. After making sure that Gauthama was away from the hermitage, Indra, assuming the guise of the rishi, entered the apartment where Ahalya was and said, "You are a very beautiful woman and my mind is lost in you. I desire you." Ahalya could see that it was not the rishi, though the guise was there. She knew too that it was Indra. She was flattered and pleased that the Lord of the heavens desired her, and she decided to conform to his desire. She agreed to his love-making. When it was time for Gauthama to return from the river, then Ahalya realized the extent of her sin and also the danger which beset her and Indra. She told him, "Go away from here as quickly as possible. I am afraid of the anger of my husband. Please protect yourself from his wrath." Indra laughed and said, "Have no fear. I will take good care of myself and of you too." Indra hurried out of the ashrama, bent on escaping the eyes of Gauthama. He was just late. He saw the rishi entering the ashrama even as he was trying to depart. Gauthama had just bathed in the river. He was wearing wet clothes and with his body covered in ashes, he looked like Lord Mahadeva. Gauthama was able to know the truth about everything which was happening around him, and with the summit and dharba in his hands, he stood like looking at the apparition before him. Indra assuming the garb of Gauthama, it did not take very long for Gauthama to guess what had happened. He bent his angry eyes on Indra and said, "Your vanity about your being irresistible to women has made you commit this crime. I now curse you. You will lose your manhood." Gautama then entered the ashrama and looked at his wife, who was shivering with terror. He said, "You will remain here unseen by anyone, and you will lie on the ashes, and the air will be your food." Years later, when Rama, the powerful son of Dasharatha, enters the ashrama, it will become sanctified and you will regain your form, and you will also be cleansed of the sin which you have committed. Gautama left the ashrama and went off to perform tapas, while Ahalya is waiting for the touch of your blessed feet to purify her and to sanctify this ashrama. Come, let us enter the hermitage and end the torture of this beautiful woman who is now penitent. Rama, Lakshmana, and Vishwamitra entered the ashrama of Gautama and saw the beauty that was Ahalya. Rid as she was of her sin, Ahalya radiated beauty and charm like the moon which has emerged from a screen of clouds. She looked like a sudden flame which had leaped out of a cloud of smoke. She was like the sun reflected in a sheet of water. Rama and Lakshmana saluted her, and flowers rained from the heavens on them. Gautama came there and blessed the princess. The rishis spent some time together and then they parted. The princes took leave of Gauthama and his spouse with glad hearts. The entire group of rishis then walked towards Mithila. If you enjoyed this chapter, please like this video and share it with your friends and family.